So average atmospherocephalic bureaucratic in the act of milking a cranial harp. Wow. So this one on the right is called Hairdresser Depressed by the Persistent Good Weather. I mean, when you're hungry. I guess he's gonna go into. I mean, it is. It is. This is edibles. So. Okay, so listen to the name of this one on the left. This one's called Ordinary French Loaf with 2 fried eggs riding without a plate, trying to sodomize a heel of a Portuguese loaf. Interesting. Anthropomorphic bread. A running theme in Dali's paintings that we'll see pop up a lot more. Yeah, it seems like he's really into food, but in the worst reasons. Says another one with the uh, bended clock, which I've always perceived as being his way of uh, bending time because he's a surrealist painter. That's my explanation. So maybe from fear of deprivation, maybe because of his frightful Catalonian atavism, Dali now set about frantically making surrealist artifacts out of bread. He had already had a special liking for bread. In his museum at Figueras, he papered the walls with round Catalonian loaves. Often he would take a loaf, hug it, and lick it and nibble it, and then stand it up as if it were his latest invention. Nothing could be simpler than to cut out 2 neat, regular holes in the back of the loaf and insert an inkwell in each one. What could be more degrading and aesthetic than to see this bread ink stand become gradually stained in the course of use with the involuntary spatterings of pelican ink? A little rectangle of the bread inkstand would be just the thing to stick the pens into when one was through writing. And if one wanted always to have fresh crumbs, fine pen wiper crumbs, one had only to have one's bread inkwell carrier changed every morning. Upon arriving in Paris, I said to everyone who cared to listen, bread, bread, and more bread. Nothing but bread. Guess he likes bread. So there we go. We have another one here. And we have another one right here, dead center. Surrealist object indicative of instantaneous memory. In The Secret Life, Dali gives examples of inspirations derived from his famous method. The method itself, he commented, was beyond his understanding, as were many of his ideas, the full significance of which he was only to perceive later. One day, I hollowed out entirely an end of a loaf of bread, and what do you think I put inside it? I put a bronze Buddha, whose metallic surface I completely covered with dead fleas. After putting the Buddha inside the bread, I closed the opening with a little piece of wood, and I cemented the whole, including the bread, sealing it hermetically in such a way as to form a homogeneous whole which looked like a little urn, on which I wrote horse jam. What does that mean, eh? This one's awesome. It's the automatic beginning of a portrait of Gala. We have Gala with two lamb chops in equilibrium on her shoulder. Demon waiting there. And it's odd because besides these paintings, I feel like a lot of these, like, I feel like this is the scene of a movie. I just don't remember what movie it is or what the inspiration. I mean, obviously the inspiration is was taken from this, but I don't remember. But I had like a memory of watching a movie that had a scene that looked something like this, which kind of leads me to believe that there were many directors from our time now that were inspired by Salvador Dali, to the point of not necessarily copying directly from him, but being inspired to the point of, I guess, it being a tribute to him. This is And Jealous of Gala. So he liked going into drugstores with an immense loaf tucked under his arm, ordering fried eggs, and then eating them with a small piece of bread cut off the loaf, to the great amusement of anyone who happened to be there at that time. His paintings sold well, 8 in New York, 3 of them to museums. For the return trip, the Dalis were able to treat themselves to a luxury cabin on the Normandy. Before they departed, Carice Crosby threw a dream ball in Dali's honor. The Americans vied fiercely to out Dali each other. Dali confessed that even he, who was so rarely impressed by anything, was astounded by the brightness of the ball at the Coq Rouge. Simply to please Dali, ladies would appear with a birdcage on their heads, say and otherwise practically naked. Others pretended to be wounded or mutilated in frightful ways, or stuck safety pins through their skin to do cynical violence to their own beauty. One young woman, slender, pale, cerebral, wore a satin dress with a living mouth. On her cheek and back and in her armpits she had eyes like terrible tumors. A man wearing a bloody nightshirt had a bedside table balanced on his head. When he opened the door of the bedside table, a flock of birds flew out. On the staircase there was a bathtub filled with water, so shaky that it threatened to tip over and flood the merrymakers at any moment. In the course of the evening, a huge flayed ox was dragged into the ballroom. Its slit belly was supported on crutches and contained a dozen gramophones. Gala was done up as a choice corpse. On her head, she had a doll, which made a very real impression. That looked like a baby with its belly eaten away by ants, its head in the claws of a phosphorescent lobster. So these, it's a carriage. The one on the left is called Necrophilic Spring Flowing from a Grand Piano. Very simple. This medium paranoid image. Pausing a little bit from the surrealism, that one looks more like an like realistic painting. Pretty beautiful. I like the different shades that it has of yellow. The way he kind of plays with that blue color with the ocean. That's pretty nice. Conquest of the Irrational. The fact that I myself do not understand what my paintings mean while I am painting them does not imply that they are meaningless. This is the cover of a Minotaur magazine. It is a brochure for Dali's second solo exhibition in the Julian Levy Gallery, New York, in 1934. Well, that's one way to promote yourself. Dali continually boasted of having initiated dissent among the surrealists. He said he agonized over how he could get them to accept an idea or picture that was totally at odds with their taste. To this end, he resorted to that Mediterranean paranoid hypocrisy which he thought himself capable of only in cases of perversity. They didn't like anuses. Craftily, I sneaked masses of them past them in disguise.